The Germans were on the march through France and Poland and all that.
And there was never any question about whether you were going to enlist or volunteer or not.
We landed on Utah Beach.
What is the most interesting thing you remember about being in the Army?
Getting out.
Do you ever think about those days or the people you were with?
No, I didn't want to think about them. Why did I forget it, I guess.
Soldier Stories at Life's End was a project that we were the fortunate recipients of a grant from the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities. And it allowed us the opportunity to go through depths and layers of a project that we never thought were possible when we first started the project.
Several of our staff had attended a conference and they talked about the differences that veterans have as they're approaching end of life and how much they like to tell their stories, and that's one of the ways that they can process things as they are approaching end of life. One of the things that we did was we felt it was important to train the volunteers to be able to go in and interview the veterans so that they would be sensitive to what the individual needs of the veterans were, how to conduct an interview, and how to really help the veteran to be able to process their experiences.
And I think we had a series of 2 workshops for each participant. And then I went along on the interviews, each of the interviews, as the equipment operator, and tried to remain silent, which is not always that easy to do when you want to know something and someone's asking questions that you want to hear different questions. So
one of the poignant pieces of this project were the veterans who never got to tell their stories.
The family members were really, really appreciative. They thanked us over and over for doing this, because they thought it was very important to do, and no one had ever really done it in a formal kind of way for most of them, and so they appreciated that.
So it's not just the 10 people that we captured. They represent so many more of the people who were part of this project, whose voices never got heard on this project, as we tried to calculate and time a respectful meeting for someone who was actively dying and wanted to talk but never got to.
He served in France and Belgium and a number of other places, and people he loved the welcome that they got, and he felt so happy with these French families, and so it was a big thing.
I got drafted. I'll never forget it. It was snowing like hell. And I was living on Somerville Road in Appenau. That's where I left to go in the service. I was almost all done shoveling, and the mailman come and he gave me that, and I opened it up and I looked. I said, "Oh Christ, I'm in."
He did KP, and he helped clean up after the meals. He worked on making sure the officers' shoes were shined and the dry cleaning was done, and delivery of things and unpacking of things, that sort of stuff. So that he traveled with the soldiers, wherever the battle was going, the KP would follow along with them.
What was that like after you came back? Getting used to being here again.
Well, it felt pretty good. I knew I hadn't been hurt anywhere.
I felt really glad to be able to bring something that they could do instead of, I think people feel pretty helpless when they're so sick, and for them to be able to do something and tell something and share their story and know their family was going to, get the results of it, it was really nice. And just personally, I enjoyed learning some more about the war.
When I was first asked about it, I thought it was interesting because there are a lot of military people in my family. And also, my dad met my mother in Italy during the war. And so that's how my whole family came about. So I was kind of interested in other veterans and what they had to say. And I still have uncles that I talk to, not about the war per se, but they were in World War II.
We landed on Utah Beach. There were 10 miles wide and 6 miles deep, the invasion force. And when we landed, and they started to tell us where we were going. And we were going to Hitler Stadium there, was being used as a firing point for the Germans. Officers came down from the command post in their dress uniforms and their badges on. They weren't in combat clothes. And told us they were inspecting the guns. They didn't think they'd exceeded their firing power.
Move up there! Right flank!